given Sunday, week 17 in the 2025 NFL season. It is Christmas week, so happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas to everyone celebrating this week. And we don't have the most exciting slate of football this week. Last week and next week will probably be a little bit more exciting. Just a lot of one-sided games in this one. But let's just get kicked off with definitely not as much of a one-sided game. We've got the Eagles going into the frigid Buffalo, playing the Bills at home, playing the Bills at their home. What are your thoughts for this one?
Rain, sleet, or snow, the Eagles train to go, baby. The Eagles have shown me a lot over the last 2 weeks. Yes, against lesser opponents and the Raiders and the Commanders. But I anticipate a very fucking cold game against Buffalo. I anticipate an incredibly tough matchup. But the Eagles, in my opinion, match up really well against the Bills. Because the Bills' strengths don't come from throwing the football. And the Eagles, by the way, have the number one pass defense in the NFL. But we've seen at times this year, elite receivers and elite quarterbacks can just torch the shit out of the Eagles secondary. We don't really have to worry about that against Buffalo. They have an elite quarterback, but oh my god, is their receiver room a mess. The biggest concern is James Cook. And I think that we can take care of James Cook. I trust Jordan Davis, a 3 or 4 time Big Man of the Week winner. Jordan Davis. He is spectacular. He is especially spectacular against the run. I trust our linebackers, which is something a lot of Eagles fans never thought they'd be able to say after Jeremiah Trotter Sr. retired. But I have the Eagles winning this one 24-21. I think that no matter what the result of this game is, it's going to tell us a lot about both of these teams and their odds in the playoffs. And dare I say, it's a potential Super Bowl preview.
It very much so could be. I think right now both these teams are a little bit more of not a dark horse, but an underdog candidate to make the Super Bowl. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the key to this game for Philly is shutting down James Cook. And I think the Eagles have the personnel and the defensive coaching to do that. The Eagles have a phenomenal run defense. Jordan Davis, as we talked about, as you just mentioned, and who we've mentioned numerous times as the big man of the week across the NFL. The Eagles have the personnel and the coaching to do this, and I think they will. We both see this game going similarly. And I think the Eagles are probably going to take this one 24-20. And honestly, I think if it snows, it might favor the Eagles.
Well, I honestly think that the snow does not favor either of these teams particularly more than the other. Saquon had his first true Saquon performance of the year last week rather. 21 carries, 132 yards, and a score. Included one of the worst blocks I've ever seen by Cam Jurgens, producing one of the most beautiful spin moves in the backfield I've ever seen by Saquon, and a much better downfield block by Jurgens. But yeah, absolutely.
That's a coach thing. That is a culture thing. That is, you missed the first one. Okay, go on the field and take somebody else out of the play.
I honestly think that if it snows in Buffalo this weekend, it might favor Buffalo more because they are much more of a run-first team this year than Philadelphia. Philly ran their most empty sets of the year last week against the Commanders, and holy shit, the offense actually looked functional. Who would have guessed if you run out of empty and you let A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith run over the middle of the field every once in a while, the offense might actually look good. Jake Elliott needs to be put out to pasture. His career is over, and it kills me to say that. He is perfect, literally perfect in the Super Bowl on field goals. Although very funnily, he has missed an extra point. But it's time for Jake Elliott to go. I would certainly at least appreciate the Eagles bringing in competition for him in the offseason. I think it's too late in the regular season for us to find a decent kicker to replace him with. But we both expect Eagles wins. We both expect pretty similar Eagles wins, it seems. And I think that at the end of the day, between these two teams, if I have to trust one of them to gut it out and find a way to win, it's going to be Philadelphia.
I'm right there in agreement with you. There's not much more to say about that one other than that. But, we'll see what happens in Buffalo. And on to a big one for NFC seeding. Not necessarily making the playoffs or not, but a huge game for seeding. We've got the Chicago Bears going into San Francisco. I am absolutely on a hate watch in this game. I do not want the 49ers to win. The 49ers are currently the 5 seed in the NFC, and the Bears are currently the 2nd seed in the NFC. And if the Bears want a first-round bye, which is possible, they're going to need to win this game, and it's going to be a tough game to win.
It is, but I think my support in the Chicago Bears has never wavered this season. I may have picked against them a couple times when I thought that they were truly outmatched, but my support for them has never wavered. You've been a little more force them to show me consistency before I'll believe in them. Yes, this game is in Santa Clara, but the Bears are coming off perhaps the statement win of all statement wins. It is much. It's much harder to bet against a team that just recovered an onside kick and threw a 41-yard dagger to kill their biggest op of the last century. It's hard to pick against that team the following week. And San Francisco has shown some incredible performance over the last couple of weeks. They have a very tough end to the season with Chicago, and then they get to home games both times, which is a fucking miracle. They get at home against the Bears and then at home against Seattle to close out the year. Those are 2 incredibly tough games. I don't see them winning both. They might lose both, but they're not going to win both. And I have Chicago winning this week 31-28. I think it's probably either a game-winning field goal or another game-winning touchdown pass from Caleb Williams, whose stats have been pedestrian, but oh my God, is the film eye-popping.
He really just has been improving, it feels like, every single week, which is what you want to see out of your young QB and out of any young player. But speaking of the Packers-Bears game last week, did you see the picture of Caleb Williams with the speed grader on his head?
Did you know that DJ Moore wore it first while being handed the game ball?
I do. I love rivalry stuff like that. The Packers-Bears game last week was pure cinema. And I'm expecting this week to be another really great game. I've also got the Bears winning it. I think they're going to win it 31-30. The 49ers offense looked lethal with Brock Purdy coming back last night. And I'm expecting a similar level of performance from that offense.
And from 2, honestly, potential games of the week to maybe the game of the season. I mean, we talked about this week having like a really weak slate, but I don't know about you, man. I'm hype as shit for this game. We have interestingly both picked against the home team, despite a very strong performance from them this past week against a vastly superior opponent. The game of the year is going to be Giants-Raiders. And I mean that completely unironically. This game might end 6-3. And it would still be the greatest fucking game of football anyone's ever watched. For those of you who...
If you guys watched the last week, we mentioned we teased a tank bowl game for this week, and this is that game. The loser of the Giants-Raiders game will likely pass the first football.
It would be incredibly difficult for anyone else to snag it. The Jets, Titans, Browns, and Cardinals all have 3 wins. and whoever wins this week will join them. The Giants get the Cowboys in Week 18, who are a vastly superior team. And the Raiders might get the Chiefs, which is very funny, actually, for a Week 18 game. So, honestly, maybe another potential cinema game next week. But this game will decide who has the first overall pick. Now, there are two different ways to look at who wins this game, right? There's who scores more points than the other, and who comes out of it more likely to get the number one overall pick. And I think the Giants are more likely to put more points on the board. And that is really good for me personally. Because the Giants don't need the first overall pick. And I don't really want them trading out of the first overall pick to make sure that they are set up into the future. I would love for the Giants to have the second overall pick and just grab Carnell Tate. I'd love for the Raiders to not kill Fernando Mendoza, but actually help him, which would be nice.
We can have our dreams and our prayers, but when it comes to the Raiders not letting the quarterback die in their backfield, I don't think historically they've shown to be very great at that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've got the Giants winning this game 24-18. I've just got more confidence in the life, or strangely, I have more confidence in the life of the Giants offense than the Raiders. Geno Smith might be the worst quarterback of all time.
It's really bad. I have the Giants winning 18-13 because I refuse to believe that in a game of this magnitude, either team will score more than 20 points. It probably will happen. The Giants score 20 points or more when Jackson Dart plays a lot. But I really don't want it to happen. I'd love for this game to end 6-3. I think I already said that, but oh my god, it would just be...
It would be really funny. It
would be so fucking funny if this game ended 10-3 or like 6-3. Make it happen, guys, please. Bench all your starters. Just let the backups go at it. That does it.
Why not just sign a roster full of UFL players and let them play it?
Honestly, one of them signs a roster of the UFL All-Stars. One of them signs a roster of the CFL All-Stars. And they have to battle to the death to find out which league is better.
That would be funny.
That will do it for our circled games. Our first game in the rest is Texans at Chargers, which is arguably more deserving to be a circled game than Giants Raiders. We both have the Texans winning this one, albeit in different fashion. Tell me what you see going down in LA between Houston and the Chargers.
So, to me, this game feels like both of these defenses. One, I want to say both of these defenses are really, really good. Both of these defenses are very dominant, although the Texans defense is a little bit better than the Chargers defense, and the Texans offense is a little bit better than the Chargers offense. I have this one. I think that the Texans are going to win it 20-17, but I could also see it 24-17. I could see it 28-17. But either way, I don't think that the Chargers are going to be able to put a 20 in this one just because of how dominant that Texans defense is.
And, as dominant as the Texans defense has been, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, they did just give up 23 to the Raiders. So there's that.
Every great team, every great unit has their bad games, and we just haven't seen kind of poor performances like that consistently from the Texans.
Excuse me. I have the Texans winning 28-24. I think that they are the better team. I'm rooting for the Chargers personally because I think the best matchup that the Texans can get in round one is at New England, and I don't anticipate the Patriots to lose another game, honestly, for the rest of the season. I see them as a pretty easy 13-win team. We'll talk about them in a second in a game that we will not spend much time on. In fact, the phrase, we're not going to spend much time on this game, is going to be very widely used this week.
Yeah. And just a quick note, and just something to note with the Texans-Chargers game, if the Texans win, they are in. They clinched, I believe, the last wild card spot in the AFC. It puts them at 11-5 on the year. If they do win, which the only other competitor for a wild card spot is the Indianapolis Colts, who fell to 8-7 last night.
Yeah, and that would put the Texans at 11 wins, which would mathematically eliminate the Colts. On to the first game that we're not going to spend a ton of time on. The Chiefs have now had their top two quarterbacks suffer ACL tears, season-ending injuries, and they play the Broncos this week. So I'm just going to say Broncos 31-6 and move on with my life.
Yeah, I mean, I've got unfortunately for the Chiefs, the season is already bad. They're getting the draw.
Oh, fuck.
And a Bo Nix that's looking to redeem himself from last week's performance. Unfortunately, the Chiefs are going to be on the receiving end of that punishment. I haven't got the Broncos considered.
And a second consecutive game that we will not spend a ton of time on. Bucks at Dolphins. The Dolphins presumably will either start Quinn Ewers again or Zach Wilson. And in either case, the Buccaneers are a better team than that. I have the Bucks winning 21-17, which is honestly a reflection on the Bucks more than it is on the Dolphins. Yay, the Buccaneers are going to win this week.
I think I'm pretty speaking in agreement for a lot of people that the Buccaneers have been a little bit disappointing this season, especially after the start they had. But this one, at this point, the Buccaneers are playing for pride and a chance at a probably round one exit playoff berth.
Almost certainly.
I did not think I would say this, but I think I would rather see the Panthers in the playoffs than fly.
Yeah.
My God. But not much to say about this game. I've got the Bucs winning 24-21, and if they don't, then I will be
Yeah, no, that's fair. I've got Bucks 21-17. This game we actually can spend a little bit of time on, which is a nice little treat in the middle of a week of shit. We've got Ravens at Packers. The Ravens are a Steeler win or a Raven loss away from being eliminated from the playoffs, and unfortunately, I do think that happens here. I think we solidify the AFC playoff picture this week with nothing but seeding left to be fought for next week. I anticipate the Packers winning at home 24-17. And I gotta be honest, it kind of doesn't matter whether each of those teams' starting quarterbacks are healthy. I'd love to see Jordan Love versus Lamar Jackson, which is certainly how this game was billed at the start of the season. But Malik Willis put on some pretty good tape against one of the better defenses in the league in Chicago last week. And I'd kind of like him to get a chance to audition for a team that needs a quarterback. Like, I don't know, that team in New Jersey that wears green.
Like Malik Willis, probably a little bit more than a lot of people did coming out of college. And honestly, it was coming under Jordan Love may have been a good thing for him. And if he can go out and put together a good performance that he plays, then he could find himself in starting position somewhere next year. But with that, the Ravens are fighting for their life.
Yes.
They've got to win out against a tough Packers team in Green Bay. Even if they have Lamar and the Packers don't have Jordan Love, this is still not going to be an easy one for the Baltimore Ravens. The Packers defense is a very well-rounded unit, and the offense can still find ways to score and move down the field without Jordan Love. I've got the Packers winning it in a close 1-21.
Yeah. And I think that and 24-17 are both very reasonable scores, no matter who plays in this one or who doesn't. We might see higher scoring if both of the starting quarterbacks are in. But I want to spend a little bit more time on this game before we have to extend to 3 games in a row that we are not going to spend much time talking about. So I will consider this that. And now, Patriots at Jets. I have Patriots 42-12, and that might be generous to the Brady Cook led Jets.
Yeah, I've got the Patriots 30-10. It's the Patriots Jets.
It's really Patriots Jets.
It's a really good team this year against a really bad.
It's a historical big brother and a historical little brother. And historical big brother has the upper hand, as they do in the next matchup that we are not going to spend a ton of time on. Steelers at Browns. I have the Steelers winning 24-18. The Browns have shown life, both offensively and defensively. And I am personally really rooting for Myles Garrett to break the sack record this week because I don't want to have to put an asterisk next to it because it came in the 17-game season. But that being said, I don't think it's going to matter. Offense, defense, the Steelers have shown that they are capable of hanging with the best of the teams in the league. You froze for me. I'm so sorry. I did not realize you were talking.
No, you're good. You froze for me. I thought that you were done. I thought you were done talking.
I have the Steelers 24-18, and that's all I really have to say about that.
Yeah, I got the Steelers 20-17, and I'm secretly hoping for a Cleveland win. And I think that if Cleveland does have a chance to win and keep the Ravens playoff hopes alive, it comes from a 6-sack Myles Garrett game. And like, I see that if the Browns do win, it will be by putting the Steelers in a defensive chokehold.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to happen to the degree that it needs to happen. No. But I've got the Steelers winning it 20-17. I've got the Steelers winning it 18. And on to another one. Not too much to say, but we've got the Cardinals playing the Cincinnati Bengals. I've got the Bengals winning it 35-27, and that 27 for the Cardinals is just because the Cincinnati Bengals defense has been atrocious.
Yeah, I just changed my score for this one. I know the Bengals defense is awful, but oh my god, the Cardinals offense might actually be worse. So I have the Bengals winning 28-15. I expect another Joe Burrow gem. We are in the stretch of the season where I expected Joe Burrow to be back when I said to you weeks ago that the Bengals would go 3-0 in this stretch to end the season. And Bengals fans would have an off-season full of pretending that they could have competed this year if only Joe Burrow had stayed healthy.
And I mean, if you're a Bengals fan, that's been the story. That has been the story, and that excuse starts to run out.
And who knows? Maybe you won't even have Joe Burrow next year because he'll be a Ram or a Jet, and you don't really get a say. And I don't know if he has a no trade clause actually.
I think he does.
Yeah, I would imagine he probably does. And now, finally, even though it's not as appealing as it would have been a few weeks ago, another game we can spend a little bit of time talking about. Jaguars at Colts is a game that is happening. Old man Phillip Rivers won our Unk Still Got It this week with a really, honestly, super solid performance against the Niners. Solid for a regular quarterback, let alone a 44-year-old who hadn't played football in over 5 years coming into last week. That being said, the Jaguars just went into Denver and upset the Broncos. The Jaguars beat the Colts in Jacksonville, as is customary. And I have the Jags winning 38-14.
Yeah, I mean, the Jags over these last 3 to 4 weeks have converted me into a believer. I am now a Jacksonville Jaguars believer. A few weeks ago, I probably would have called it a wild, insane upset. But I've got the Jaguars winning at 34-24. I think that they stay hot. They're getting hot at the right time, and we'll see if they can carry that streak into the playoffs.
And well, speaking of teams that are getting hot at the right time, both of these teams are coming off of wins against. Both of these teams are coming off wins last week, so there's that. Um, it's Saints at Titans, and the Titans just upset the Chiefs in Tennessee. This, I think, would be a genuine upset. We both have this marked in favor of the Saints. We've said it before. We'll say it again. Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley have done a tremendous job taking a team with very limited talent and turning them into a team that actually kind of tries to play football sometimes, especially within their own division. I would not be surprised if the margin of victory on this game were wider than we have it marked at. I have the Saints by a touchdown, 31-24 in Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, this big team is really well coached, and the Titans team is not as well coached. And I think that's really all it comes down to. I would put them pretty even in terms of talent on the roster, but I've got the Saints winning 27-20.
And now the only game we disagree on this week. We have a record. We talked about a record 9 disagreements for the Thanksgiving episode, and now for the Christmas episode, we have a record 15 agreements. This is the lone game we disagree on, and I think I gave you the reason for disagreeing on it, but why don't you share that with the viewers?
So this game, we've got the Seahawks going into Carolina. And I've got the Panthers winning this game 30-27. And the reason why is because the Panthers have shown to be the biggest trap team, so much of a trap team, that they found themselves in the driver's seat of their division. And when they have shown that when big name teams, when the top dogs come to their house, they have a tendency to flip the script a little bit. And the Seahawks are coming off of a riveting overtime win against the Los Angeles Rams, claiming the division title and the current holder of the 1 seed. Not claiming, but are now in the driver's seat of the most competitive division in the NFL. And I think that momentum could potentially bite them a little bit, coming off of a really huge high. They did have the Thursday night game, so they've had 3 extra days to prep for this one. But I think that the Panthers are going to pull off the upset in Carolina, 30-27.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest. At this point in the season, it wouldn't surprise me. It would have surprised me pre-Panthers Rams, which I dubbed a "what the fuck" loss to the Panthers for the Rams. But the Panthers have shown that outside of the Saints, they can beat anybody. And I don't see it this week, but my score reflects how good I really think the Panthers are. I have the Seahawks winning 29-28. I would anticipate that if this score specifically were to happen, Carolina probably tries a 2-point conversion on their final drive and fails, or Seattle tries a 2-point conversion and fails on their final drive. I think that this game is going to be a lot closer than most people would have had it coming into the season. If the Panthers win, they claim the NFC South. If the Seahawks win, then a Rams loss and a Niners loss, neither of which we think are terribly likely, would clinch the 1 seed and the NFC, or not the 1 seed. It would clinch the NFC West for Seattle. And actually, it might clinch the 1 seed. If they win and the Rams, the Bears wouldn't have to lose because the Bears are relying on the Seahawks losing out. So a Seahawk win, a Ram, and a Niner loss will clinch the 1 seed for Seattle, as well as the NFC West.
Yeah, I think this is a side note, and because I knew it was a thing a year ago, but there are a few players on this Carolina team that know a thing or two about beating the Seattle Seahawks. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ex-Rams on this got Austin Corbett on the offensive line, and then most of these defensively with interior linemen, Ason Robinson and Bobby Brown, and then Christian Roseboom at linebacker, and then Nick Scott in the secondary.
Rams legend Christian Roseboom.
No, Rams legend Nick Scott. So if you guys don't know, in the 2021 NFC Championship game, Nick Scott delivered a absolute critical blow on Deebo Samuel over the middle of the field. And he's only 5'9", but when he gets ahead of steam, he can come in like a freight train. But the side note that this Carolina team does hold a lot of ex-Rams on it. They have experience playing the Seattle Seahawks. And we'll see what happens on Sunday. I think that this game very well could have been in the circle game. Was probably more disturbing than the Tank Bowl. But, we'll see what happens on Sunday. This is one I'm excited for.
And a game that I think we're both pretty well less excited for. Lions at Vikings. The NFC North is the only division in football where every team could theoretically hold a winning record at the end of the year. It requires the Lions to win one of their final two and the Vikings to win out, which would necessitate a Vikings win this week over Detroit and a Lions win next week over Chicago, who might be resting their starters if they're locked into the 2 seed. But that being said, the Lions are pissed the fuck off. They can still get a wild card slot if the Packers endure a late season slide here and they surge. I have the Lions beating the ever-loving shit out of the Vikings, 38-17. We talked about this last week before the Pittsburgh game. They were already upset about the loss to LA. Now they're upset about the losses to LA and Pittsburgh, and they see a team with a young quarterback and a defense that is not as good as it was billed to be coming into the year. And holy fucking shit, are they going to take their anger out on Minnesota? I have Lions 38-17.
We talked about the Broncos who are going to be pissed at their little brother, but I mean this is even worse. I mean the Lions, like you said, the Lions are coming off of 2 very frustrating losses, and little brother Minnesota is just going to get some run of it. I've got them winning it 35-20. I think that could be a little bit generous. I could also see this game being 40-10.
Yeah.
I mean, it could get really ugly, but we'll see what happens on Sunday. But I highly doubt a Lion loss is going to come. And on to our Monday night game. We've got the Los Angeles Rams going into Atlanta, the holder, I should say the giver of an additional first-round pick for the Los Angeles Rams in this upcoming draft. Was really hoping for a Falcons loss last week. Unfortunately, didn't get it, but I think I'm going to get it this week. And this one's going to show me how this defense can bounce back. That has been Sean McVay's mantra, has been, okay, how do we respond? The defense has had back-to-back struggling performances. I want to see how this defense responds. And if they let up 3 or more touchdowns to the Falcons, it may continue to give me a lot of worry and concerns about the defense. But I've got the Rams winning 35.
Well, and I have the Rams winning 35-31. I am concerned about this Rams defense. And I am optimistic about the way the Falcons offense looks right now. And I think that the Rams could figure out their defensive issues. But, the word on the Falcons for the last few seasons has been potential, right? Since they drafted Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and now Bijan Robinson as well, it's been potential. The Falcons' defense is a lot better this year. The Falcons are arguably a quarterback and a number 2 receiver away from being true dominant playoff contenders. And Kirk Cousins has been playing good and efficient football. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson all have a tendency to gash defenses, and the Rams are already sliding. And I don't think the Falcons are going to win, but I also wouldn't be terribly surprised if they managed to pull it out. I think it would be a lower scoring game if they did. I think that they'd probably have to rely on their defense. Matt Stafford all but locked up the MVP last week, despite the loss, with one of the greatest quarterback performances ever 450 plus yards, a bunch of touchdowns. Arguably could have been the NFC Player of the Week over Puka Nacua. But Nakua accounted for half of Stafford's fucking yards. So there's that.
Yeah.
That being said, I think the Rams will find a much tougher opponent in the Falcons than they would have with Michael Penix. And I think that this is going to be a much closer game than it has any right to be.
Yeah, it very well could be if this Rams team continues to struggle defensively. But that does it for all of our picks for this upcoming week in the NFL. Of course, thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said at the beginning, happy holidays. This is Christmas week. And there's nothing I love more than football on Christmas Day. It really is just something to love. But thank you guys so much for watching. All of our medias, our Instagram, our X account, our TikTok will all be linked in the description. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this virtual edition of Any Given Sunday. And we will see you all next week.